I thought that I would share a little bit and talk a little bit about some testing that I recently experienced, and then also upcoming testing that I am going to be having, in case it can be helpful to anybody else going through these conditions, and anybody that might have anxiety over some things, or just curious what they're like or anything like that. So I have 4 studies that were recommended to me. An endoscopy, a gastric empty study, a SIBO test, and a swallow study. So I kind of was wondering if they're all kind of the same, kind of similar, will give the same kinds of answers, or if I really have to go through all of these. And I was told that they all show different things, and it is important to have each one of them done. I'm not able to do the endoscopy right now, and so they suggested that I go for the gastric empty study. Both the gastric empty study and the swallow study both include giving you some kind of a dye that you have to ingest, and so you have to have them 6 weeks apart at least, because you can't have, I guess, 2 studies with like 2 forms of dye or something back to back. So I decided to do the gastric empty study first. I am about to go and have a SIBO test done in a couple of weeks. I've never had one before, so this will be my first one. I've never had any of these before, so this is my first time doing any of these tests. So I went a couple of days ago for the gastric empty study, and my experience with it and what it was like, I will show pictures because I was able to take my phone in there with me, and I was concerned with that. I didn't really want to because of all the radiation. I didn't want added radiation in there with me, but I'm glad that I did take it, because if I wouldn't have, I don't think I would have finished that test. So I'll just talk a little bit about what it was like, what it felt like my experience. Mine might be a lot different than somebody else that experiences it, but this was just my personal, experience with it and what it was like for me. I ended up having to go to this appointment pretty early in the morning. It was around like 6:45, I think. And I had to fast nothing to eat or drink the night before, starting at midnight, until the next day after the test, besides what they feed you before the test. And that to me was concerning because I become dehydrated really quickly, and I have water next to me typically all throughout the night and wake up multiple times to drink water throughout the night. If I don't, I just get really dehydrated. It's hard for me to become hydrated easily. So I take my water bottle everywhere with me, and even at night. I made it, and it wasn't as uncomfortable as I thought that it was going to be in that regard. However, I did become very, very dehydrated, and it was hard for me to get back to a place where I was adequately hydrated. I drank so much water yesterday, and no matter how much I drank, I just wasn't hydrating very well. Tried to drink electrolyte packets, all of that. Just today, I'm finally starting to kind of get back to a good place with it, but it's been kind of hard. So that aspect of it was a little bit rough, but the other part of it that I was anxious for, the only other part that I was really anxious for, was the medicine that they put inside of the food that you eat that help them to it helps them to trace your food so that they can see it going through your digestive system and how fast it kind of digests through. It is like a radioactive medicine that they put inside of your food. And because I'm so sensitive to things, I was concerned that I was going to have some sort of a reaction to it. I did not have an immediate reaction to it. So when they gave it to me, typically they feed you for this test, to my understanding, eggs, toast, and juice or water. I have been really sensitive to eggs, and I cannot have juice right now because of my fructose intolerance. And so the other option I was given was instant packets of oatmeal, which were apple cinnamon, cinnamon and spice. So the other option that I had was to do I had to take my iron, so I got distracted. But the other options that I was given were the instant oatmeal packets, which were flavored like apple, cinnamon and spice, and brown sugar. And I could not eat those either because of the ingredients. So I asked if it was okay for me to just bring my plain oatmeal and if I could just eat that, which they agreed to. And so I ended up just having just my regular oatmeal with nothing added in it, no sugar, anything like that, except for the tracing medicine that they added to it. Um, the medicine that they added to it did not taste like anything in my personal experience. I couldn't taste anything different at all about the oatmeal. Um, and I was concerned, like I said, my biggest anxiety over it was that I was going to have a reaction. I did not have an immediate reaction. I did feel very fatigued, which isn't very unusual for me afterwards. And then when I got home, um, developed a canker sore on the inside of my cheek. But that could have been due to a number of factors. So, other than that, I didn't experience any sort of reaction to the medicine that they used. I was told to be careful with the oatmeal because it contained like radioactive ingredients in it, and that I had to eat it within 5 minutes. That was going to be a challenge for me because oatmeal usually takes me about 45 minutes to eat a small bowl of oatmeal. So I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to finish within 5 minutes. I think it took me close to about 8 minutes, but after that they had me lay on a metal table, and I really wasn't concerned about that aspect of it, but I should have been. I thought that that was going to be the easy part, and that I could just patiently wait for like a couple of hours. And I, about 30 minutes in, started to feel a lot of discomfort and pain in my joints and my hips and my legs and in my back. And I thought about asking them to stop the test so that I could get up and kind of move around. But I just figured I would try to just tough it out until it was done. About 30, not 30 minutes, about an hour in, I started to panic because I started to become claustrophobic and feeling really trapped with the proximity of the x-ray machine to my face and the rest of my body. And I was told that, like I said, like I could take my phone in there with me, and that is what helped to distract me in those moments, because it was otherwise I would have had to have them stop the test and get me out of there because it was that uncomfortable for me. So after the testing was done and over with, and I went home, I received the results pretty quickly. There wasn't anything that they could see that was abnormal about the rate of my digestion. So I didn't have gastroparesis or anything like that, which I was thankful for because my mom had gastroparesis, and that is very common in people who have EDS and hypermobility and dysautonomia and mast cell. And so that would have been, an added thing for me to try to manage. And that wasn't the issue. So the issue for me is not caused by gastroparesis, it's caused by something else, which maybe one of these other tests will show. But I started I don't know if I talked about it or not in this video yet, but I started my low FODMAP and my low histamine diets a couple of days ago. And so I've just been eating gluten-free, dairy-free, and trying to see if that helps my digestive system as well. And I'm trying to think of what else I was trying to say. So I will add pictures, the pictures that I took of what like the machine looked like with my food going through my stomach, and then also what the x-ray machine kind of looked like, and all of that as I was in the process of having this test, in case anybody is curious as to what a gastric empty study is like or looks like. this was my personal experience with it. It might be very different for somebody else, but I found it to be something that I was able to finish, but also something that was pretty uncomfortable. Like, I hope I don't have to go for another one at any point. Um, so, um, my next study that I will be going for in a couple of weeks is for a SIBO study, which is where they will give me some kind of a sugary drink. I don't know if it's fructose or some kind of a sugary drink. And I will drink that, and they will measure my breath to see where I'm at with like my bacteria in my gut. And I will be very shocked if that one comes back normal, because I actually think that is part of my issue right now, is that I do have SIBO or some kind of an issue with some kind of microbiome upset in my stomach. So that will be interesting to see how that one goes. I will kind of document too and kind of share what that test is like for me and what it looks like and all of that. So that is my experience so far with the gastric empty study. I am supposed to go for a swallow study as well, but I was told that I have to wait 6 weeks because you can't have two studies back to back with the kind of dye that they give you. And I'm just kind of fatigued with all of the medical stuff really right now. And I probably won't go to that one for a little bit longer, but the SIBO test I will be going to coming up. So I will just kind of update as I go in terms of how I'm feeling, what these tests are like, and yeah, and how everything else kind of ends up going for me.